In your way. In your way.
Hey everyone, how you doing today? My name's Kirsty, aka Beth Bookish, and this is my December reading wrap up, aka the final reading wrap up for 2024. Featuring Chopper. Oh, he's so cute. This is the final reading wrap up for the year, and we're going to discuss the books that I read throughout December. We have quite a busy month this month, so I don't think I'm going to get through as much as I did in November, where if you check out my November reading wrap up, I actually read 26 manga and graphic novels and no novels. And I'm continuing that trend of reading graphic novels and manga by finishing a manga. At the end of my November reading wrap up, I did say that there was one that I suddenly remembered I'd started on the last day of November, and I was like, and then decided actually I'm too tired to read it, and that was this one. And this is Confessions of a Shy Baker by Masumi Ito. This is a gay couple who are in an already established relationship. One of them is a care worker, this one here, and this one is an estate agent. He's out and proud and doesn't really hide the fact that he's gay. He's still very kind of nervous about... I hate those birds. He's very nervous about... Excuse me, I'm gonna go shoot a bird. So yeah, he is still very shy and reserved about it, hence like Shy Baker. So like even his employees don't know that he's gay, and a lot of his friends and family don't know. He's kept himself very much hidden. And even though Japan has been making steps forward towards LGBT inclusion and reducing prejudice, there's still a lot of stereotype, there's still a lot of negativity around it, which is why he's very nervous about coming out. Now, his employee suddenly goes, hey, why don't we become an LGBT friendly establishment? Because, you know, I've noticed that there are a few people around who seem to be gay and they struggle to get housing. And he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Only he very quickly realizes that she's also got this kind of straight woman perception of gay men, in that she's like obsessed with them and has this idea that they're all the same person, and is just obsessed with the idea of having a gay friend. And she's like, oh, I've never met a gay person, I've never known anyone that's LGBT. And he's like, and he's also like, she's one of those where when she brings up LGBT stuff, she brings up like inappropriate things, and he's like, that's not really appropriate. And like he tries to tell her, but it's not until she goes to a talk, and then she comes back, she's like, did you know all this? And he's like, yes, I've told you this. There was like that kind of plot line, and I did appreciate that, watching that plot unfold. And it kind of revolves around when they first started dating 4 years ago, because he was so nervous about being gay and people finding out. When it was his boyfriend Gon's birthday, he originally called up to get a cake made, but then panicked, thinking, what if they think I'm gay? So he decided to make a cake himself, and that led to a tradition where every Wednesday he makes a sweet treat for him and his boyfriend. It's quite sweet as well, because like his boyfriend has mentioned that he wants to be a bit healthier and lose a bit of weight, so now he makes the treats and tries to make healthy versions and like reduce fat and things like that. And it's quite sweet to watch, and I love their little dynamic. You can tell that they love each other and it's a tender relationship. I also, while reading this, was like, I feel like this has been written from a gay male's perspective, because it didn't have any of that kind of what I call the fetishizing behaviors and scenes and things like that that happen when a woman tends to write it. It felt much more balanced, well paced. It had actual discussions around the issues that LGBT people face with like prejudice and discrimination. And a lot of manga that has been written by women tends to focus on let's get to smart as quickly as possible. And this didn't. And when I looked up the mangaka, it is a gay male author, and I love the fact that there is now more manga coming out from Japan with LGBT inclusion that's actually written by own voices. Like, that is just so amazing. So I did give this one 4 stars. Mostly I didn't give it 5 because I felt the baking at times did take more page space than it necessarily needed to, and I was like, Kind of the only interaction we really got between the boyfriends was on a Wednesday while talking about baking and cooking. And it's like, it was nice that we got like a little weekly recap, but it also was kind of like, I would have liked a little bit more with those two. And I also, the art wasn't my favorite. I like it, it's fine. I gave it a 7, but it's just not like my absolute favorite. But it is definitely one that I do want to continue. I have given it 4 stars and it has intrigued me. And like I said, the fact that it's own voices is just amazing. And I'm interested to see how things are moving forward. Editing Kirsty, to let you know that I originally intended for this video to be all of my December reads. Unfortunately, well, fortunately, because I read a lot, but I ended up reading so much that I decided to split it, as I did with November, into 2. So this is going to be for the novels that I read, and then I will also be releasing a second part to this with my books that I pick for the TBR gate, which is Ren's TBR game. I don't know which one's going to come first, which one's going to come second, but either way. This is going to be the novels part, and then the graphic novels and manga will be in a separate video where I go through my TBR gate character cards. So also please go check out that. But on to the reading wrap-ups and our first book. I finished a novel. I'm so happy with myself. I bought this for Ren in November and it was purely like a cover buy. I saw it and was like, ooh, this looks really cool. I also saw it was blurred by Sydney J. Shields, the author of The Honey Witch that I loved earlier this year. And then Ren had a look and then Ren flipped it over and was like, ooh, it queer. And I was like, okay, I'm buying this for you. And then I immediately was like, well, I want to read it. So I started it. I got like 70 pages in and then I kind of put it down and didn't go back to it for about 3 weeks. And then I've binged the last 250 pages and it's 5 stars. This is Sorcery and Small Magics by Mai Gadusi. This is a debut novel and it follows Sebastian Grimm and Leolanda Lovage, who they're not really enemies, it's just that they have a very profound disliking of each other. Grimm thinks that Lovage is too flippant and too easygoing and doesn't take anything seriously. Lovage thinks that Grimm is too serious, and the pair of them, it's kind of reached a point when we start the story where like they're not paired together by any of their tutors because their tutors know better. And there was an incident when they first started at the school that they're at, the font. The one good thing is that they are adults in this, so it's not like we're looking at 16, 17-year-olds. These guys, it's been 5 years, they're like 22, 23. And in that time, you know, incidents have happened and it's at the point where they're very, they just don't like each other and it's better to keep them apart until their final year when one of their tutors is like, hey, I'm putting you two together because I think by now you should be mature enough to get over your differences. When you leave here, you're going to be paired up with people you don't like, so you better start getting used to it. And in this world, you've got those who can cast magic and those that can write magic. People who can cast magic aren't necessarily able to write magic and aren't able to cast the spell unless it is written down. So they are requiring scrivers, and that is what Sebastian Grimm is. He is a caster, so he can't write the spells himself, and there's also some other issues he has that you find out in the book. And then Lovage is a scriver who is the one that writes the spells, only he has his own hang-ups and things. So the pair of them are forced together. Then there is an incident where Leo ends up accidentally picking up a spell that should not be in any human's possession, let alone his. It ends up being cast by Sebastian Grimm. Basically, Sebastian doesn't need to say his spells out loud to cast them, he can just say them silently. And because of this, he ends up accidentally cursing Lovage. And essentially, Lovage is now compelled to do the bidding of Sebastian Grimm, no matter what. So if Sebastian says, tell me, he has to tell him. If he says, walk off a plank, he has to walk off a plank. That kind of thing. So they're then forced together to try and go into this woods where there is rumour of a sorcerer that can help them. Only these woods extend outside the boundary that is safe of their magics, and therefore they are in extreme danger when they go in there. And it was such a fantastic story. It's definitely, like it says on the back, that it's a slow burn, and honestly, if you are wanting romance and you want a quick get together to get to the romance and you don't really care about the build up and you want it to be that at the end of the book they're together and everything's happily ever after, this will not be a book for you, because I think there's like one scene that involved any kind of physical intimacy of any description, and even then it wasn't explicit. It was one kiss, but it was a fantastic, and it had me kicking and squeeing because it was like the perfect situation that it happened in. So if you are expecting a book that's going to be full of all of the fluff and all of that, this is not going to be for you. I don't like to say enemies to lovers because they're not enemies to lovers. It's just they profoundly dislike each other. And by the end of the book, they're not necessarily lovers, but they are definitely heading that way. And some stuff happens that you kind of like, I really loved this. I loved the magic in this. Most scrivers write their spells down. Leo has this talent where he can put his to music, and multiple people throughout the book say that they've never heard of anyone doing that, but he was like, well, for me, it comes so much easier to create a spell song than it is to just write the spell down. And so I felt the descriptions of the magic spells when they were happening were beautiful. I loved the clash between these characters and how through the book we start to understand them on deeper levels, and we reveal that each has a reason for being the way that they are. And I felt that the characters were really well written. Even the bad guys in this, you realise may not actually be as bad as you think they are, and that it's more of a circumstantial thing that led to where they got to. And yeah, everything in this was fun. I laughed so many times. The plot was a little, like, there were times when you could tell that it could have been developed a bit more, but on the whole, the plot was really, really good. And yeah, I had a fantastic time. I haven't marked it down for intrigue, because even though there was like a month gap where I didn't read it, that was on me, not on the book. Every time I picked this book up, I just flew through it. And like I said, I've read 250 pages since yesterday. I just binged it, and it is so, so, so good. I did get to the end and I was like, wait, that cannot be it. That's gotta be. And it does say that there's going to be another book. So I am extraordinarily excited. I've got a few quotes out of here. One is about someone's house. There is a particular thrill to exploring someone else's home for the first time. It's like peeling a curtain back from all your notions about who that person is and instead seeing them as both who they are and who they want to be. And it was so sweet, and it was quite a insightful moment that we got from Lovage. So yeah, I am really, really excited for the second one. And like I said, I have given this 5 stars. However, I'm not counting this when I do my book of the year bracket. I'm not counting this in December because I will be starting another book right now. And I know that obviously I'm going to finish at least one more thing in December. Famous last words, I bet. So when it comes to doing my book of the year bracket, because I started it and got a third of the way through in November, I will count it as November. Otherwise, I will have nothing for that month. So this will be book of the month for November because it was the only book I read. But yeah, 5 stars, and I did have a fantastic time, and I now can't wait for the sequel. And as soon as I get home, I will be buying my own copy of this for my shelves. So definitely check it out. That's that one. And fingers crossed, I'll have more updates soon. We shall see. Another day, another manga, graphic novel. This one I was gonna wait until I'd read A Man and His Cat so I could then see about matching this to a character card for the TBR Gate cards. But we're going to the library today and I was like, this is kind of one of the last ones that I wanted to get to from that big stack that I got. So I just decided to read it this morning. 3.5 stars. The Sad Ghost Clubs by Liz Meddings. This basically just follows our main character who has like depression, anxiety kind of things, and so is portrayed as wearing like this ghost sheet and is like a sad ghost. The sad ghost, Sam, goes to a party where they meet another sad ghost called Socks, and the pair of them start talking about their mental health problems and things like that, and then it prompts Sam by the end of the book to start this little sad ghost club. In terms of the writing and the atmosphere, I did score it very high because It's very clear that this is an author who has had the same struggles. I definitely connected a lot with certainly the beginning and sort of the self-doubts and the insecurities, and when Sam is like, I'll go to this party, immediately going, oh my god, did I really just say that I'll go? What if people don't want to talk to me? What if I make a nuisance of myself? And then at the party, they're like, right, okay, no one's talking to me, so I should make an effort. And goes over to like this couple of people who are talking, and one of them says they've got a cat, and Sam goes, I've got a cat too, and I also have like a little frog friend that I go and talk to, and everyone kind of quietly just walks away and is like, shall we go over there? And I was like, oh my god, that has been me so many times where I've said something, people have gone a bit funny and then walked off, and I've been like, I should have just kept my mouth shut. Why am I so weird? And, you know, I've got into a spiral of self-loathing and hating and depression. So I did connect very, very, very strongly with the mental health stuff in here. Unfortunately, plot-wise and intrigue-wise, I just didn't care about anything because nothing really came of it. It was just two people talking about the problems that they have. And I don't know, something felt really missing from this. You know, like when I've read things like, you know, Days at the Morisaki bookshop this year, where even though it's had this kind of vibe where there's not really a set plot, it still felt at the end like I've gotten something out of it, and that I felt like there's a very tiny bit of healing happened by the end of it. And I just didn't feel anything from this. I was, in fact, getting to the end, I was kind of skipping, because I was like, okay, what, 50 pages of talking about nothing really. So yeah, unfortunately it just didn't hit me in the way that I expected it to. It did hit me in the, oof, I have felt this before, but then nothing else really grabbed me about it. And I wasn't the biggest fan of the drawing style. Like, it was perfectly adequate, it just wasn't my favourite. So 3.5 stars for this one, and that's going to go back to the library today, and I'll be back probably very, very soon, because I have two things that I'm reading currently and they'll both be done quite quickly. So I'll be back in the next day or two with another update. I definitely got my reading mojo back for novels, because it's not even, I think it's 3 days after I finished Sorcery and Small Magics, and I have finally read and finally finished Gallant. If you recall back to my December TBR, and if you haven't watched that yet, please do go watch it. I kind of went crazy over this one because I was like, I have had this on multiple TBRs. I've been desperate to get to it. I have not gotten to it. I finally read it. I finally finished it. I haven't yet done core pile, and I don't know what I want to give it. So characters, 7, atmosphere, 10. Okay, I've just run it through core pile very, very quickly, and it's come out as a 4.5. I knew this was either going to be a 4 or 4.5 or a 5. There was no way it was a 4 or a 3.5 or anything like that. While the atmosphere was off the charts and the writing, I said to Ren that if they loved this, which they did, they gave it 5 stars, then I think they would enjoy Addie LaRue. It's kind of got that same sort of atmospheric lyrical writing that I found Addie LaRue had. So I really did love that. The way that she draws atmosphere and the house and ghouls, and the way that she writes, like, certainly the perspective of the master. Ooh. However, the plot was kind of, the ending wasn't my favourite. I felt I would have preferred a more resolute ending rather than it's a bit more open. And I also found that there were elements in the plot where it's like, just as you start to think like, oh, could it be this? It was then revealed immediately. It kind of felt like there wasn't enough build up to reveals or enough kind of insinuation. There was more, it was a bit more like on the nose and you being fed the information than you guessing for yourself. And like, I'm 50-50 with that, but in this book, I was really drawn in by at one point I started to question like, oh, could it be this? And it was, but we were told so quickly, I was like, oh, like, I would have enjoyed that kind of, you know, half a book later go, oh, you know? And the characters as well, I felt were kind of flat. I loved Olivia. I loved the representation of mutism and how she communicates and the way that she perceives the world through noise and sound, I thought was beautifully written. She was great. I really loved the side characters of Hannah and Edgar. They were fantastic. I just felt Matthew was a bit lax and we didn't really get to know him throughout the book. I just would have liked a little bit more about him, and I did feel some bits were rushed. I genuinely feel this could have been 50 to 100 pages more with a little bit more explanation of things, which normally I don't say. But this one I felt did kind of need it. But honestly, the vibes and the atmosphere it gave me, you know, I've had a bit of a creepy gothic house moment this year. If you know any other books like this and sort of Starling House that I loved this year as well, any books like that, please do tell me because I need to read them. But yeah, 4.5, and I also have a new candle because it does describe the smell of Gallant. When the breeze is right, it carries the scent of summer, sweet as melon and the distant warmth of sun. And there's also a lot of mention of roses in this, and even though, like, V. Schwab really loves roses, I've noticed. Even though it says that the rose is there for colour, not scent, Olivia does mention in the book that she would like ones with scent. So I've written down the summer, the melon and the sun, and I've also added rose to that. So when I get home, I'm going to be coming up with a Gallant candle to go with my darker shades and basically have a Schwab selection of candles. So yeah, that's that one. I don't yet know what I'm picking up next, but I'm not ready to let go of this vibe, so I've got a few options. I'm not sure how soon, but I will be back soon with another update. Another book, and we have Peter Darling. I'm not going to go fully into this one because I have just filmed a really long clip for it in my Bookishly Compatible video because this is one of Ren's all-time favourite books, but I will say I have given it 4.5 stars, and it seems like we have finally broken my curse of finding terrible Peter Pan retellings. I finally found one that I loved, and hey, what do you know? It's gay. So obviously, it was so good. There was great chemistry. It was fantastic relationship stuff. I had a couple of niggles that I didn't enjoy as much, but like I said, I have my Bookishly Compatible video. I don't know if it will be out yet. If it is, I'll let you know. If it isn't, then it will be out soon. And yeah, I had a great time with this, and there's going to be a candle from it because there's a really cool description in here, and I'm like, this is exciting. So Peter Darling by Austen Chant is my third book this month, I think, or fourth, and 4.5 stars. So if this ends up being my last book of the year, which it probably won't be because I do have 2 others on the go and I reckon I will finish those, but it's not a bad way to end the year. Even if it's not my last book, it's still one of my last, and it's still, we finally broke the curse, guys. Celebrate. I have 2 final books that I'm going to be talking about for December, and then that is it. We are now in January. We got back from our trip to Perth yesterday, and then we both kind of just died. I struggled to sleep last night because Perth is 2.5 hours behind Adelaide. So even though we were both in bed and exhausted at 9 p.m, my brain was struggling, and like Ren fell asleep really quickly. I was still awake at nearly 1 in the morning because in Perth that would have only still been 10:30, which was about when I was going to sleep. So yeah, I'm tired. But I did finish 2 more books for December, the first of which I started on the 30th on the flight to Perth, and I finished it on New Year's Eve. And the second one I started months ago, have been reading consistently throughout the year, and then finished it on also New Year's Eve about an hour before midnight. The first of them was Her Dark Angel by Chloe Higgins. This is one of the books that I was reading for a romantic affair, and I do have a romantic affair vlog, like the reading that I'm doing in the build up to it, so full thoughts will be on there. But this was a fake dating romance that was set in the late 1989, and we've got an actress who ends up fake dating a rock star to help improve his image. And in doing so, they start to understand each other a little bit more, and they both reveal that they went through a lot of trauma that they're now working through together. And it was a really good read. I gave it 4 stars. I had a good time. I really loved the dynamic with the characters. My biggest critique with it was partly that despite being set in 1989, there were like no references to make me realize or to like immerse me in that time frame. And I also found that the romance, the build-up, immaculate, absolutely immaculate. But when it actually got down and dirty, it was not good. But I am hoping to pick this book up at a romantic affair if I can and get a signed copy, because it's definitely a series I'm going to continue, and I did have a good time with it. So if you like fake dating or sort of rock star romances, that's your one. And then the other one that I will talk about in more detail is Initiation, which is The Sex Wizards Book 1 by Alethea Faust. Jonah had been going on at me for a while with this, because whenever I said that I am very particular about what smut I do enjoy, he would ask me, well, what smut do you enjoy? I would reply and he would say Sex Wizards. And if you've been on his channel, you know he recommends this series a lot. He ain't wrong, guys. He ain't wrong. I gave this 5 stars. It was fantastic. It's about a guy called Dom, which, you know, like, we're just going to ignore that, who, after sleeping with a wizard, she reveals to him that he has got magic in his blood and that he should join the sort of Wizards Academy. And so he goes along and he discovers that in this Wizards Academy, each of the schools of magic is related to a particular sex kink. It sounds weird. It is weird, but it's so geniusly written and the schools make perfect sense. Everything is so well done. Even kinks that when I saw that they were in there, I was like, this is not one for me. Like there's a pony play, which is all about humiliation and degradation. I was like, that's not for me. I even enjoyed those chapters because it was just so well written, and the way that the author explains different things, it made me rethink my understanding of certain parts of the BDSM community and kink community. And I was like, oh wow, but it was actually really well written and it had a really good plot and a fantastic cast of characters. The fact that it was a book that was 99% sex, yet that 1% that wasn't, was so well done and actually was logical and has built up to more stuff coming in the future. It was just so intricately done. And I was like, wow. And as of filming this, I have just done my Book of the Year bracket to find out what my Book of the Year is. And it's up there with many other things in this book. It did very, very well, is all I'm going to say. You'll need to check out that book bracket video. It did take me like 5 months to read because I kept getting hot and steamy reading it and I kept putting it down because I was like, okay, I now need to cool down and breathe. And it was just like every time I picked it up, I'd only read a chapter, but then I'd be like, I forgot what happened in the plot. So I'd have to go back a chapter to read and remember what the plot was, which then would mean that I would reread the scene that made me forget what the plot was and I'd forget again. But eventually on New Year's Eve, I just sat down and I was like, right, I've got about 30% of this book left to read. Let's just do it. And I did. And it was so well done. And definitely like the last 4 or 5 chapters do become way more about the actual what's going on in the plot, but there are still some scenes in there. Just, it was incredible. So listen to our resident German when he tells you to read a book, read it. So that was it. That was my final books for the year. And 2 very incredible books they were. I had a great time. I really did enjoy my reading. And yeah, I feel like December was incredible because like I said, I've had to do this in 2 videos. So not only did I do a ton of manga, I think I did like another 23 manga, but I also did all of these books and a few extra graphic novels and manga. It was a great month and a fantastic way to end the year. And I've already started January very strongly as well, which I will talk about obviously next wrap up. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you got through all of this, let me know what your favourite book of December was. I'm gonna head off. I hope you're all good. I hope you're staying safe. Don't forget to check out my Patreon and Etsy that are always linked below. And I will see you on the next video. Bye.